NWSL expansion in the news. It's been narrowed down to 3 teams, reporting out of Sportico, saying that the 3 cities for final contention, alongside the return of a franchise in Utah, are Tampa, Boston, and the San Francisco, aka Bay Area, for NWSL expansion, reporting that the highest initial bid is over $40 million. Once upon a time, we'll say pre-COVID, franchises in NWSL 2 to 5 million price tags in terms of expansion fees, right? So we'll see. It's exciting. I think the reporting has been out there. Shout out to Jeff Kassouf, has been on the Utah Royals news for quite some time, and I think with we're looking at 2024. People could say, yes, we know that one of the potential 2 teams is going to be the Utah Royals, but who could possibly be this second expansion franchise coming into the league? And a lot of excitement, I think, for folks who have been here a little while, like myself included. I got really excited to see that Boston was in the mix for this one. What was your reaction when you saw all this?
I was a little surprised at Tampa being in the mix for this. It had been reported by NWSL Commissioner Jessica Berman. This was at the NWSL Championship at the end of October, that there were so many teams and so many cities that were interested in joining the NWSL and being one of those expansion sides. But very quickly, you can rule out a lot of different cities based on how much they've already gathered, the investors that are interested, if the facilities are in place, if they have a plan for a facility, because all of those things need to be set in stone already before the league can say, yes, we accept you at this point. So the fact that Utah is coming back into the NWSL, that's fantastic, because they've had a team there before. They understand. We'll kind of see how it rolls out this time around, that they can be there a little bit longer. The Bay Area in San Francisco, we've heard a lot of chatter about former players, former professionals, former U.S. internationals that have their hand in the Bay Area team and getting an NWSL team there. There has been a lot of publicity and chatter about that. So not at all surprised to see San Francisco on this final 3 list. Boston is a city that had a team, the Breakers, that were there. They ended up folding or relocating, right, to North Carolina. No, they just folded. That was the Boston team that just folded.
Yep.
So I'm not so surprised that Boston is back on the table, because frankly, there are not a lot of teams in the Northeast. There's Gotham in New Jersey, New York, and then Washington, D.C. And that's kind of the extent of it. So putting one above New York to hit those Northeastern cities and states, I think is a good idea. But Tampa was the one for me that was a little bit out of left field.
Was that the combo breaker? You were like, hold on a second.
I was like, where did Tampa come from? I just don't foresee it happening, right? I foresee, I mean, between these 3, I think it's going to San Francisco. And this is just Lisa Roman taking a guess at this. But I imagine that Boston is still in that conversation. I don't know enough about Tampa to know who's involved, who are the investors, where are they going to put this? Is there a fan base there that wants this? Because we know Orlando is in the center of the state. So kind of how is this going to balance out? California is a much bigger state to have 2 teams than Florida, which is not as
well. I mean, we look, if we're just going off of recency, we had 2 California expansion sides in 2022, and they were quite successful. I think we saw a San Diego Wave FC side make it all the way to the semifinals, pretty much stay within the top 3 of the table throughout their entire inaugural season. We saw them pivot from a collegiate stadium to a much bigger collegiate stadium in Snapdragon, better facility than in terms of which they got their start. Then we saw similarly with Angel City. They remained in playoff contention, but fell just short. Also had to deal with some injuries along the way. But from Challenge Cup to the regular season, watching that team play their games at, Banc of California Stadium, and not just any plain old regular soccer environment. We're talking about a bunch of sellouts
Yeah,
throughout the regular season. We're talking about, thousands of season ticket holders. Um, the success for an NWSL team in California, the bar has been set quite high.
I agree.
So I'm with you in that we've seen success out of NWSL sides in California within 1 year, and then we've got Orlando franchise in Florida that has been a very, very mixed bag of results. I think one playoff appearance,
Yep.
right, for Orlando Pride, I think, since their expansion into the league in 2016. And who knows, maybe this will be the moment of a little bit of a reset button for them, now that they've made the official hiring of Seb Hines as head coach. We haven't seen or heard too much in terms of the offseason signings for them, in terms of a big marquee type of player. I know Marta is still sort of on the roster, and this is a
Mhm.
big experienced player. They've announced some re-signings like Erica Timrak, Carrie Lawrence. We've talked about that. Viviana Villacorta. These are young players that they maybe want to continue to build around. So to sort of have that as the example, then I'm with you in terms of seeing a Tampa
Yeah,
franchise potentially come in, and I believe for Tampa, the Tampa Bay's ownership group is involved in that
right.
as well, which is I'm very curious about that as well, because I remember not too long ago their MLB franchise kind of being in flux
Yeah,
as well. I think they made a pitch at one point to MLB to be like the first dual market
yeah.
team. Like, they wanted to have like some of their games in Tampa Bay and some of them in Montreal, Canada. And I was like, okay, well, that's interesting.
Uh-huh.
So what, like, is that the energy that they're bringing to NWSL? I don't know if that's the energy that they're bringing, but I think it's going to come down to the money, the
Mhm.
investorship, the resources, what that looks like. I think
I mean,
moving
that's what it's
forward,
gonna come down to, any of these 3 cities, right? Like, if they actually have the money to back and support this, and that they can provide a vital pitch to the league, that they will aim to have success in the
I
first year.
I think that's people's. I think that those are question marks. I think when people saw markets like the Bay Area or Boston, like, what does that look like? Where are these teams going to play if they
Mhm.
end up winning the bid? But it's exciting to have narrowed down the field. I mean, we've been talking about expansion for quite some time now, and to go from hundreds and hundreds of applicants to narrowing it down to
Mhm.
a dozen or 10 or so, which we heard. Commissioner Berman during the NWSL championship final saying that was the next phase, that they wanted to narrow down all of those bidders, and now reporting that it's down to 3 teams. So probably sooner rather than later, we'll know who
I
that
mean,
second expansion team is going to be in 2024.
I'm thinking that we'll find out pretty soon. How crazy to think that in 2021 there was 0 teams in California, and by 2024 we could potentially have 3. But like you said, San Diego and LA, they had really good first seasons in the league, and they had fans show up. They broke records, and they're only what 2.5 hours apart driving distance. And if the Bay Area were to win the bid for an NWSL team, that's like what, 6-7 hours north. Like, it's a whole different state if you're living in the Northeast over here.
You have to. I will be curious to see if it's the Bay Area,
I
what
know.
a sort of trifecta type of rivalry
Oh
will be
yeah.
named, or what it'll be called. Interesting. We'll keep an eye on it for sure. We've been talking
And
about it forever. We've had multiple Bay
I
Area
know.
connections on the show. We've had Brandy Chastain, Ellie Wagner, Danielle Slayton on the show. We'll see. It's an exciting time in the off season for sure to
And
sort of chat
and then
about
we
this
get
kind of
to
stuff.
we get to see new crests, new colors, new
Yep.
kits. Like, that's also fun. We're not there yet. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Look, it's exciting to talk about. It's good things to get happy over. Let's chat a little bit before we take a break about some other things that came on the radar in terms of contract news. Again, free agency perhaps hitting a little bit of a dry spell due to the fact that the holiday season is upon us. But there's been some re-signings. Haley Mace and Kansas City Current announcing a new contract, re-signed for 3 years. Ellie Prysock re-signed with Houston Dash. I thought that was very, very big for the Dash. I really like the pairing of Prysock and Katie Naughton and I think it's going to continue to be helpful for them moving forward. Sort of have that, though, that dual position solidified. And Amber Brooks, a 1-year deal with the Spirit. That is the bit of the free agency news. Brooks, a longtime veteran of the league, listed amongst all those free agents this year, and will be with the Spirit on a 1-year deal. And something else we'll have to keep an eye on moving forward is Houston Dash announcing that they're going to reveal their head coach. So that's coming down the pipeline this week as well. So we'll have to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, lots of re-signings, and that's kind of the name of the game the last couple of weeks, and even I think until the new year that we'll see. I don't think anything too crazy will drop, except hopefully Houston new head coach, because that's a team that really needs to lock one up, especially after having two re-signings, or Ali Prysock saying that she's going to stay there, which is huge, as you said, and I think Haley May staying with Kansas City. That's one that I was not at all surprised to see, but really happy to see. This is a player that I think did tremendously last year for Kansas City, and she got herself a call up back to the national team. It's a great player, but not too many crazy moves and trades happening, just a little bit of status quo, but we wanted to keep everyone updated for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Excited to see who the Dash are going to be bringing into the head coaching position. And I'm sure, putting the kind of the announcement on the radar, I'm sure has, folks sort of speculating about who it could be or who they would like it to be in that position. Ella Massar recently announcing her departure from Kansas City Current as an assistant. I'm not too sure if she's a candidate in this one as well. I know there's a lot. The vetting process is going to be so much different now for teams moving forward. So in terms of licensing and head coaches or candidates who are interested in head coaching positions and what that looks like, I know there are connections, for Massar with the Dash, but not sure if everything else is up to par. But we'll see what happens there. Obviously, we covered Rin Wilkinson and her departure and resignation of the Thorns. Did the Dash immediately try to get her into interviews as well? I don't know. We'll see. We'll have the news, coming through this week, and eventually get to chat about that.